Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business to a seven-figure mark. Okay. I am joined with an unbelievable guest here today, you guys. I am super, super pumped to kind of dig into this guy's story. This dude is everywhere, and he is repping California insurance agents in a way that nobody else is, as far as I'm concerned. I am joined with the one, the only Andrew Lee. What's up, Andrew? How's the day treating you? How's the week treated you so far?
What's up, man? I just almost lost street credit because I was trying to do the West Side and I did this. I've just been working in insurance too long for me to have street creds anymore. So
The
don't mind
the
that, guys. But I'm very much California, very much Los Angeles. I'm not gonna mess this one up.
the
And
the
life is
longer
great.
the longer you carry an insurance license, the more your street cred goes down. It's just a rule of nature.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to be known as a street guy when you're a health insurance agent. Like, hey, here's a policy, and on the side, do you want some crack? Like, no, you don't want to do that.
Super excited to kind of dig into your story, bro. Like, of course, we've done a plethora of videos together and brought some great value to agents all over in the past. First time having you on this platform, though, the Seven Figures of Buzz podcast. So I'm super
Yeah,
excited.
super
Um,
excited for you.
dude, come on, come on. Let's kind of start at the beginning, right? So, like, as of today, I'm just gonna kind of give some highlights of kind of where you're at today, right? As of today, you are a top producer multiple times over, going on top producer trips, book of business in the thousands, personal producing machine, mentor to other agents there in California. You're helping grow their careers and really seeing some good results in that. And you're the admin of the California Insurance Agents Facebook group, and of course you run the California Insurance Agents YouTube channel, right? And you bring so much value that's needed in California. There's just nothing there from the standpoint of somebody that's just pushing things forward and bringing transparency and offering just great training. But so that's where you're at today. Let's start at the beginning about how did you get into insurance? You've been in the game a long time now, but give me the intro story. How did you get in?
Yeah. So, I mean, in a nutshell, this is 10 years ago. So, wow, 2014 is when I got licensed. Before that, I mean, I was a super senior in college, so I had one more year. I graduated in 5 years at a whatever college. Wasn't the best, I wasn't the smartest, was not prestigious, but I got it done in 5 years with a music degree. So I used to be like a musician, so I used to focus and I used to be obsessed about that. But obviously it doesn't make you any money, and you know, I just I was sort of getting over it. So right out of college, my old roommate, he's like, "Hey, there's this opportunity with Dish Network. It's like a basically it's you go door to door and then you sell Dish Network." So I was like, "All right, well, I have no money and it won't hurt. I mean, I'm not paying anything into it. Doesn't seem like a MLM kind of like scam or whatever. So, yeah, why not?" So, like the first door that I knocked um, in like where was this, Victorville or something like it's like on the way to Vegas from LA, just in the desert somewhere. First door I knock, I sold them, and I was like, I could do,
Boom.
I could do this. Like all you have to do is just sort of talking out my ass for the most part for the first, for the first sale. But all you have to do is talking and you get money for it. That part and you just have to be charismatic. I was like, check, check, and check. All right, cool. I think I'm game for this. So I started. So after that, they're like, okay, cool. You got your first sale and your first knock. That's insane. So they're like, well, so we're gonna take you out to Illinois. So I was in Champaign, Illinois, where like U of I is, and we were just driving around like the boonies in Illinois. If you guys are from Illinois, you guys know that there's Chicago, and then there's nothing after that, right? It's just corn and soybean, right? So that's where I was selling. I was selling, door to door, trailer parks, rotting wood, you name it, right? And gun, uh, pointed at me, like all the good stuff, all the good door to door stuff, and I loved it. The funny part is I loved it because I'm a dude from LA, and I can, if there's a gun, pointing at my head, it probably wasn't the first time that happened. So I'm like, hey, well, anyways, do you guys, what kind of cable do you guys have? I saw your satellite there. I saw your satellite up there. And it looks like, and the dude's like pointing a gun. I saw your satellite up there. That thing's a dinosaur. Let me go inside and let's go inside and let's check what box you have. You know that box you're talking about? Let's go, and then I would just go inside the house, and I was like, dude, I almost shot you. I thought you were somebody else. I was like, no, it's just me, your cable guy. So fast forward. So I became manager my first year in. I mean, I was just pretty decent at that. Or actually pretty good at that. Now the only problem was, now I was like a sales mercenary. I was going around they moved me to Davenport, Iowa. They Indianapolis, Dallas, like not even like proper Dallas, I'm not trying to offend anybody. Arlington. I'm sorry, great, whatever. Um, I was sort of all over the place, and I was like, I'm homesick. I don't want to. My income wasn't as like high as, for a manager, not as high as you want it to be. So I came back home and I was just working out and just I was like, what, 24 years old, just being a bro and just I was applying for jobs here and there. My friend that went to college with me, he's like, hey, remember that one guy we went to Mexico together with him? Yeah, he's starting like this insurance shop thing. Do you want to join? I was like, well, no, not. I mean, insurance. Like, I've never done that. I've never even done phone sales before too. So you're saying it's in phone because I do a lot of in person. That's my specialty. And they're like, well, you like San Diego, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I like San Diego. And it's like, yeah, you like Pacific Beach, don't you? Like, don't you like love like? Because I used to go there like almost every weekend. And I was like, yes, I do. And it's like, well, you can make six figures and you can live there. How's that sound? I'm like, BS. I'm not gonna make six figures, but I'm down to live there. So, all right, whatever, sold. I have nothing else going on anyway. So I like literally 2 weeks after I came back from Iowa. Where was I? Iowa, I think. Yeah, Iowa. Um, I moved to San Diego with like just I had no money either. By the way, I had no money going back, and so I just moved to San Diego, got like a cheap place or whatever, and then started working at the shop. And I just, as an LOA, you're getting fed leads, and you're getting into the system. And of course, I was already pretty dang good at sales at that time. So I'd be on the leaderboards and stuff like that, and all of a sudden I'm at six figures my first year, right? So I'm like, I think I was like 103 or something like that. And I'm like, now I can buy a drum set. Now I can buy, that was my first purchase, by the way. Now I can buy a drum set. Now I can do this. Now I can do that. And then, after I put in I was there for 4 years. They dissolved because their chargebacks caught up to them and their lead sources. They didn't have an internal lead source. They actually just bought inbound calls for ACA. And what we did is
Mm.
the whole ACA stack. And that was my history. That's like pretty much all I knew. So after that, I did a year of because it dissolved, I did a year of PNC. I worked at Allstate. So I got some good, fun, I mean, decent experiences from that. I wasn't the best at PNC. So I go back and I look back and I was like, well, you've been here for, less than a year, and then open enrollment was coming back up, and I was like, don't you want to just do another open enrollment? And this time, don't you want to do it yourself? So that's what's going on in my head because I wasn't getting paid as much as I thought at Allstate as well too. So all that combined together, and then of course, my bank account being low, and I'm 28 or whatever at the time. And I'm just like, dude, if you don't do anything right now, you sort of have like that mid child cry, or I don't know how to call it, mid adolescent crisis where you're like
Yeah.
28, like I figure I gotta do something before I'm 30, right? I think Grant Cardone, I think I was watching a Grant Cardone video. He's like, I started my first business when I was 29. I was like, dang, I gotta start at 29, Grant. So that
Yeah.
was that was the sort of kind of the energy that I was on. So I was broke, but I was like, I gotta make this work because I need to be somebody. Like that's when I made a promise to myself where, I would write, you're gonna by July of 2022, you're gonna make $250,000, and then I put it under my pillow and then like read it every day. Funny enough, 2022 July comes around, I made more than that.
Boom,
So
boom.
it was just like that was the kind of time I was on. I was just
Yeah.
like so like, hey, let me just dive in, just put my head down, write policies, don't worry about anything else. And then I already knew how to sell, so just keep doing that, find leads, work on referrals, and then keep it moving until you're at a comfortable place. And then from there, I sort of scaled and sort of got to where I am now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think your story is one of, you know, tremendous like resilience, right? Because moving around like that when you're working for the cable company, right? And you and you're at such a young age, right? You're in your early 20s basically at that point. That's super difficult. That's super difficult for a lot of people. A lot of people wouldn't be able to do that. But what I love about your story the most is it's such a heavily ingrained sales background. So I feel like we were just talking about this before, off camera, like a good foundation of sales skills can serve you for your rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like there's so few people out there that can actually sell. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like there's a lot of agents that actually do write policies pretty consistently, but they don't know how to sell because all that they know how to do is order take. you
Right.
know do you feel like those early years of doing the cable thing, doing the door-to-door stuff, working leads, just like being a hustler, do you think that played a big role in you becoming kind of like this grinded out, kind of businessman today? Like, do you think that played a big role?
Yeah, to an extent. Thing that really, the biggest role that was played was, or the biggest thing that really got me there was people telling me that I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um, I had a, I had a reputation of not being the best. Like, trust me, I was a totally different person back then in terms of just productivity, not
Yeah.
necessarily. My personality is still the same. In terms of productivity and the way I treated myself, and like the inner talk and just what I didn't know, what I didn't know, and just I had different priorities. I didn't care about legacy. I didn't care about health. I didn't care about my life really. I was just floating, you know. Um, and then, you have a really serious conversation with yourself and you just say, dude, like what are you gonna do? Like what are you gonna become? You have to have that conversation and it has to be very realistic and it has to really hit your heart. Like what are you gonna do? Like, are you just gonna just sort of be the laughing stock of like, dude, even my family members were like, you like, what are you doing? Like, just you should be doing this, like whatever. I think somebody told me, I'm not gonna name which family member they're watching, but they're like, you should open up like do a restaurant with your parents or something like that because they're like restaurateurs at a certain capacity. I was like, no, I'm gonna double down on this, and then they're like, just giving me that. Even my friends were like, Andrew, are you serious, dude? Like, yeah, you can barely hold a job, let alone, like you're here bouncing around.
Yeah.
You can't even hold a job, let alone like start your own gig and let alone lead people, And I remember all of those. I remember every single comment. I know who it's from. I use that as absolute gasoline, right?
Yeah.
I use that to scorch freaking earth because one, I'm having an issue with myself, right? And two, I have external factors telling me otherwise. And now that hilarious, funny enough, and some of the people that have said things about me like that I'm not gonna do, like they've apologized. Which, that feels good, right? But at the same time, um, it was yeah, they apologized, but man, innately I knew that I could do this.
Yeah.
Like I knew that I had it. I just needed to do it and do it my way, you know. So
Yeah.
that was like a huge, huge fuel source for me.
I think I've met and talked to so many ultra successful people over the years, as have you, right? You have as well, um, through all kinds of travels, events, phone calls, whatever the case might be. And a recurring theme, I think, with so many super successful people is exactly what you said right there, right? Like there is a urge to prove themselves to people that are doubting them, and they are heavily doubted, right? Like I even think of I 100% myself. I can put myself in that same boat as well. Like you know, when I was in school, I remember, I think my I don't think they'd admit this today, but my parents I think were afraid like they'd have to take care of me because I was like doing so bad in school I like didn't give a fuck. And there's this I feel like when you have those comments from loved ones like, Andrew, are you serious? You sure this is going to work out? It's one of those things where it's like in their mind, it's coming from a good place. It's coming that from the fact that they care about you, but you know inside what you're capable of, even if they can't see it, right? You know inside what you're capable of, and you need to prove to them that they're wrong about you. But I think a piece of you also needs to prove it to yourself, right? Like, and I think that is such a powerful thing. I mean, look at how many successful people that have children. Their children are like spoiled brats and they become drug addicts and they're not anything, probably because they had everything. They didn't have to struggle. They didn't have people doubting them. I think that that discomfort or that bothersome feeling you get when someone doubts you is ultimately a huge driving force and really necessary. You need gasoline to keep you going.
Absolutely. I mean, I still have that to this day. I still have haters to this day. I didn't think that I would because I felt like, I'm the friendliest guy in the world and the nicest guy in the world. But it is a war, it is a battlefield out there, and if I have to go Machiavellian, I will, right? I mean, you're either fear or loved. So, I mean, I still have that in my arsenal, right?
Yeah.
I still have that. Like, if there's a trying time or somebody trying me, then I'm going full force on making sure that we're on the same page that look, I'm doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you're going to be in the way of that, then I'm going to have to demolish you in
Mm.
the nicest way possible. Like demolish in terms of like, here, just scoot over this way.
Just move you out of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not like going crazy, crazy, but just like I don't need that negativity in my life. I'm
No.
already every day is already a battle in itself. Life is always happening. But if you're in my way and I have a moral, clean perspective like on what I'm doing and it's the right thing that I'm doing and it's something that I love doing and it's something that helps other people and if people are gonna hate on that or get in my way on that, then I have now at this point a duty to make sure that I do what I do in spite of all of that. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it now.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, like one that I remember very vividly about myself is like when I first started in insurance, probably the whole audience knows I'm second generation. I came in working with my father. I was like 21, 22, and I told my dad, I'm like, I want to make $1 million a year by the time I'm 30. And I remember my dad being like, well, I don't think you can do that in this business. He's like, I don't think this is the vehicle for you. And I remember how much doubt that casts in me at 21, 22. And
Yeah,
like there was a few years where I was in the business, but I was like doing all these other side things because I didn't think my vehicle was strong enough to take me
right.
where I wanted to go. And it absolutely fucked with me, because like it took my focus away from the main thing, right? But ultimately at 30, I made $1 million a year, like I accomplished that goal, but a huge part of that driving force is I never forgot when I was 21 or 22, my father telling me that. Good intentioned. I don't think he was saying it to try to hurt me or anything like that. I think he was trying to like reel in my expectations in his mind,
Right.
but there was that burning desire, I honestly think, I mean, look, I mean, you look at Michael Jordan, right? Like Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech is literally him just like going at people that doubted him. Like that's his whole speech. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever like if no one's ever watched that,
Coach.
like go yeah, coaches, like you made a mistake, buddy. You remember that clip? Like those there's so many successful people that are driven by that and I think that fire needs to be there. I think you need fuel because if you don't have external motivations, it's just it can sometimes the motivation can just not be there to continue to keep pushing and progressing. um I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about, so as an agent, right? What are some, I mean, you're somebody now that you're working with agents, you're mentoring agents, you're really pouring into these agents, and some of them are really starting to really blossom and really just start to develop fantastic careers, so props to you for all the work you've done with them.
Are
Um,
loving it. I'm happy for like this is a different type of happiness when
yeah,
it's not yours. It's their success and it's like changing lives where people can go on, visit their families in different countries where they couldn't do that for an extensive period of time because they didn't have a residual income. There's like real stories being changed now.
yeah,
That kind of stuff. Okay, besides all the stuff that we just talked about, that kind of stuff really drives me as well too.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's it's so much like it's like you can impact somebody's life and their trajectory, right? Like, and that is so gratifying because you can have such a positive impact in somebody else, right? It's one, I mean, it's a different type of satisfaction, like you said, right? Than succeeding for yourself. You're succeeding for
Right,
somebody else, and like
right.
that makes life just worth living so much more, and the journey worth so much more. Um, if let's say there's an agent out there that's getting into the business or they've been in the business a little while, maybe they're just like struggling. What are some things that you tell your new guys to, that they need to do to really make it in this business, right? Because I would argue like I got around into the business around the same time you did. I got licensed pretty close to when you did. Um, and the business, in my opinion, is way different than when we started, right? And I think it's probably harder to break through now than it was maybe back then. Not saying it's impossible, but like the strategy needs to be a little different, right? And
Mhm.
they have to focus on different things. What are some things you're telling your new guys like, hey, you got to do this if you want to make it? Like if you want to be here in a year or two, like you got to do this.
Yeah. So number one is putting your business on your freaking sleeve. If you don't got no money, right, then you have a whole bunch of time, right?
Yep.
So do anything that you have to do to make sure and tap into whatever uh, tap into your personality and the best parts of your personality to convey this part, right? Like if you're just a chatty catty, talk to anybody, you generate leads at the grocery store. I mean, you're just that kind of person, right? Talking to somebody about, oh, nice fish. You got Medicare? Or whatever it is. Like you just some people just have gift of gab and
Mhm.
then what happens is, of course we have to be coaches. Like we're all coaches, right? Like I think of myself as, like a basketball coach, right? Like
Mhm.
if you are if you see somebody that has X, characteristic about them, then I'm like, double down on that, right? You go out and you be the loud, if you're loud, you be the loudest person that you need to be, let everybody know. But here's the thing, because if you don't have money, you're not going to generate leads if you don't do that. And here's the thing, you're playing to your strengths, you're going to be comfortable doing that. So you're not going to wake up every day and say, this sucks, instead of forcing somebody to call leads when they don't have no idea how to do a presentation or they have no idea how to do phone sales, right? So stick to your strengths at first, right? To get your bearings in. And then once you get your bearings in and you get some deals under your belt, you're like, oh, you get the confidence of like, oh, like this is actually working. Then you would have to scale that. Of course, if you're talking to people and, trying to get referrals like that, that's not really scalable. But at the same time, if you have, because you've sold that person, you have relationships with different people now because of that, and then you're taking action and it's rolling. At that point, then it's going to become a solid business. I would just urge the new agent to don't burn all ships, have that mentality. I know that sometimes you have to put food on the table, and I get it. And you might have to have a second job, but you're not gonna, real talk, you're not gonna get anywhere with having a second job.
Yep.
You know, I don't even want to spend that much time with you. I'm not saying it like that to be so like mean, but just on a practicality level, like if you're not giving me 100%, I'm not going to give you 100%, right?
Yeah.
That's just what it is. Like if you do have a different job, great. But even if you do have a different job and you're still giving me like somewhat of like trying to give me like 100% try, like I'm gonna do my best to work with you on that. But again, you gotta, I mean, the way I did it was literally gun to my head, not a real gun, but figurative gun, saying that if you don't do this, you're going to be a loser. And you know, three universal traits that I believe that all successful people have, like, a Donald Trump can eat McDonald's and, still run the country. And he's
Mm-hmm.
notorious for just eating like crap food. And then David Goggins, on the other hand, is going to be like, no, don't do that. Uh,
Right.
but then, they're both like sort of doing their own thing. They're dominating their own space. But I've realized that like there's three like main traits. One is like a superiority complex that everybody else like. Unfortunately, Christian, you have that. Unfortunately, I have that. Unfortunately, most leaders have this. Like I deserve the world and all the success that it gives me because I worked for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we
Yep.
have that like sort of that superiority complex. So, once you get, if you already have that embedded in you, and then also, shoot, if we want to go back to talking, I mean, I guess we're sort of, dipping into the other topic, but everybody that kills it has crippling insecurities. Like you got to
100%. Oh,
you have
absolutely.
to be, I'm not hitting my goals and it's going to make me feel like a piece of crap and I want to be better than the person next to me. And if I don't, I'll be a nobody and I'll be nothing, right? And then another one, number three would be, with all that being said, control your impulses, right? Control
Mm.
your impulses, control, focus on what needs to be done to do that as opposed to saying that you're going to do it. Control your impulses to, you know, go on Facebook and talk about nothing with nobodies, right? On a Facebook comment thread about, part B did this, and but then no, but in this scenario that, and then just like you're wasting your life and your time. You don't have tunnel vision. You do not have tunnel vision on your ultimate goal. So a lot of people do lack that. So if we're gonna have that, I mean, that because if you have that, you can have the awareness now to scale and push forward because that tunnel vision, all that work, the shooting in the gym worked, right? So now you
Yep.
have, now you can scale it from there. So, um, I mean, that's just sort of like the type of people that I want agents to become. I mean, if you don't innately have that, then two out of three would make you an okay agent. One out of three, we might have to talk. None out of three, we might not be a good fit, right?
Yep.
So, I
Yep.
mean, I'll have them do that. But if they're a killer on the phone, and I already know that from day one, and they've had telemarketing experience, then shoot, I'm gonna say, hey, get some leads, go buck wild, go crazy. All right, let's see what we can come up with.
This video is sponsored by none other than Hire Heroes, you guys. Hire Heroes should be at the top of your list when considering your virtual assistant needs. Let's face it, today, hiring employees and hiring staff for your business is harder than ever and more expensive than it's ever been before. And when you're a new up and coming business in particular, or even if you're an established business, sometimes the squeeze of the financials of hiring somebody stateside can be incredibly challenging. What Hire Heroes brings to you is an ability to tap into their best of the best team members that you can plug into your business for very affordable prices. One thing about finding and hiring VAs completely on your own is it can get a little sketchy because you don't always know who you're getting and who's working for you. The great thing also about Hire Heroes is they've gone through and done the work for you of vetting the people that you're going to be working with, and the people that you are assigned are only the best of the best and the shining examples of excellence within the company. So you know you're getting top tier talent and you don't have to go through any of the time or headache of vetting people and trying out multiple people to get there. There's a link down in the description so you guys can learn more about Hire Heroes and getting help for your business today. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just perfectly said. I think it's one of those things where I love what you said there about if the agent doesn't have all three characteristics, but they have 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, that kind of thing, you can work with that, right? Like, and I think that's so true, especially in our business, right? And like, because in our business, there is a lot of ways to build the business, right? Like, there's agents that we work with, like, there's one I did an interview with the other day, has 1,300 Medicare clients, and she's like, I've never bought a lead. And I'm just like, that is so different from me, right? I'm like, me early on, like I'm a cold caller, I'm a lead junkie, you know what I mean? Like I'm a freaking like hustler, banger, that kind of thing. But there's more than one way to get there, right? So like if they have, I think one of those characteristics, of course, if they have all three, it's a match made in heaven. But if they have one or two of the characteristics, like you can work with that and there's ways to get there. But I think ultimately, you're 100% correct. Like there is certain characteristics you have to have or be willing to develop if you want to be successful. Like you can't be lazy. You can't be a know-it-all. You know what I mean? Like you have to be coachable. And you have to execute. You have to execute on what you learn. And some people struggle with those just few things, and yeah. Yeah. I want to dig into a little bit about the industry in California, right? So like California is such a unique market for so many things, but particularly insurance, right? Um, what do you feel like is different for agents in California versus like the rest of the country? Like what are some things they go through? What are some things that they have to overcome and really get good at to be successful in California? And how important is it to have a mentor in California when you're starting out as an agent there?
Yeah, I mean, some of the main issues in California in terms of being a Medicare agent is, um, well, there's a handful of FMOs that sort of are the conglomerates in California that are pretty big. If you're in California, you know the carriers or the FMOs I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but they're so big that it's not personable. Of course, there can be factions of subsects of that FMO that does a great job. Like everybody's experience could be different, but for the independent agent that went on Google and said, "Hey, where can I get my AHIP?" And then they land on some whatever website, FMO's website, and then they walk them through everything, and then they're like, "Okay, get this contract so you can use our discount code," and then all of a sudden their contract, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
and then a lot of agents found out the hard way that's not the best scenario to be in. So there's just a lot of I mean, a lot of people, I mean, in LA, people don't want to be insurance agents. They just want to be actors where I'm at. So again, I mean, I love that because I can dominate a space if you don't want to do it. Um, but in California, the issue, one of the biggest issues are that the support system is just really poor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can have, your get-togethers. That's why in my California Insurance Agents group, I mean, the whole point of making that group was to unite people. I was like, I can't believe that name wasn't taken
Yeah. Same. It was
nothing like that
shocking.
really existed. Nothing like that existed. I mean, I saw one for KBIP, right? California NABIP. And that's, of course, but I think we have more members now than KFIB. I gotta double check. But here's the reason why is because we never had anything like that before. I've had testimonials from tenured agents, like one agent, she's been doing this for 20 years. And she was like, well, I mean, most of the events in California are just carrier events where they're doing coffee kits or pump up, product push out, all that kind of stuff. And then not really anything about marketing and sales or anything like that. Just like, hey, the dental's gonna be higher this year. Okay, did you guys look out for this medical group coming in? It's gonna be a game changer. Like, no, like what a game changer is gonna be if okay, if I have a lead, what do I do? Right? And
Yep.
then now I know the sales strategy, I know how to do it. Now, am I thinking three-dimensionally on how I can follow up? Am I implementing automations? Am I implementing systems in place? That kind of stuff. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that, right? Or hiring. How do you hire, right? How do you I mean, everybody in the Medicare industry wants to, recruit for whatever reason, but even though, I'm in a position to recruit, I'm a firm believer of like get your work in first,
Yep.
get some policies first, and this ain't life insurance. I'm sorry. This ain't life insurance where you just come in and just like start just like recruiting from day one. Like, no, like just really have a tangible product that you can work on that's a good product. Take years on, it took me years to, come up with my system. Have a great system, have a foolproof product, and then once you have that product, market it, and then if it's working, scale it,
Yep. Yep.
right? But there's
Absolutely.
not information like that in California.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so strange to me too, like, because the more over, when I first started really learning about the market there, and I started to see that there were these holes and these gaps, right? That you're talking about of information and knowledge and just resources available. I'm like,
Huge
how is
gap.
this possible? This is I mean, what is California is what the eighth biggest
Seventh
economy in the
largest
world, or
economy in the
seventh?
world.
Yeah, and it's such a gigantic state, so much business being done in general, not just insurance, but just business in general
Yeah.
done there. Um, it's unfathomable to me that these things don't exist at a high scale and high amounts in a market
Well,
like that.
the problem is, a lot of these top producers are clicky in California, whereas, you go to any like conference out of state, everybody's sort of like willing to share and stuff like that. You go to a California-based conference or not a convention, a conference, um, they're very clicky. It is just what it is, and you know, I I'm a chameleon, because I am a top producer, but I'm also like new to introducing myself to them. So now I'm getting the lowdown as to like what the deal is, and now I'm in the
Hmm.
with some of these agents. But if you're not me, like I'm pretty damn good at networking, and I'm like decent to get along with. Like that's all you pretty much need to talk to
Hmm.
somebody. Um, but a lot of agents can't do that, so that now they're stuck just at home by themselves, writing business by themselves with no support, with just them and their thoughts and talking to clients and no like no support system. I mean, there's like yes, you can call your upline, yes, you can, whatever the case is, but there's just no community and for everybody, right? I mean, of course there are going to be some of the smaller agencies that are subsets of these bigger FMOs that of course can give you that kind of training, and that's sort of the boutique feel that we have too. Me, Christian and I, we
Yeah.
have that same kind of boutique feel as well too, and we pride ourselves on that because, of course, we get the university for free. We have, engagement. I made the freaking group for that reason.
Hmm.
I made the YouTube channel for that reason. I'm here to be an advocate for Californians, especially those that are doing what I'm doing, right? And I want everybody to at the very least have good information out there so that I mean remember when you're second generation, but when I first came into the industry, my me being Mr. Smarty Pants and I can't get hustled, nobody's gonna get me, was getting got by a bunch of FMOs and all these weird emails coming in, and I
Yeah.
can't help myself either. So
Yeah.
if me, Mr. like Street Smarts, Mr. Like nobody's gonna, nobody can hustle me, gets hustled, I could only imagine the rest of these agents too. So that's sort of that's been my mission. That's been my mission so far.
Yeah. And it's so true, right? When you talk about the FMOs and just like there's been such a culture, especially in the Medicare business, where the secrets of the trade have been kind of kept at the top, right? This top little conglomerate of these FMOs and these FMO heads. Like even when I got in as second generation, my dad was in the business for 25 years when I started. And years later, when I started to kind of, my company outgrew his, he actually moved under us in our downline before we bought his company for a few years. And I found out he was being hustled by the FMO that we were with. And I was like,
You know what I'm saying?
what? Like, I started to really kind of peel back the curtain of it. And it's a real problem. It's a real problem in the industry, but I can, in California, I see it. Um, in just such a unique way. It's such an interesting kind of thing to kind of observe for sure. And yeah, there's a lot of FMOs out there that like they get people in and they take advantage of their ignorance. They take advantage of their ignorance and kind of use it against them.
I hate that. That's why I'm very selective of. I mean, because of the group. I mean, I have a bunch of agents that reach out to me. I'm pretty selective of the agents that I work with, like real talk, just because of that. I mean, I want quality control, right? I don't want to be known as Andrew Lee ignored me. Andrew Lee didn't come up with his part of the promise. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing if they didn't come up with their end of the bargain, and then I'm not going to have much time for you.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But if that wasn't the case, I don't want to be known as Andrew Lee. His reputation is, oh, he just doesn't care about his agents. I'm on the phone with my agents 11 p.m. I mean, I could pull up.
Yep.
I'm always here trying to help. And I mean, I tell my people like, my main income is what my agency makes. Like what I make, like my own pen, what my LOAs do, like that's where my main income comes from. I mean, I just do this because I want to see somebody else succeed. And if I can change somebody else's life, of course I get a little bit of, a little bit off top, but that's not my main income. Like if I were to just quit, like just not do this anymore, like I would still be alive. I would still be thriving.
Hmm.
So again, that's just sort of, we need some more organization with that in California, and especially with California, people don't want to sell under 65 health here, which is very weird. I mean, I
It
know AC
is.
was in the hot topic until like 2 years ago, but California, it's still not a hot topic whatsoever. So I still don't understand why people don't want to do that, but I do understand like the aspect of low commissions and all that stuff. But guys, it's just because most people don't know how to sell it. Most people don't
Yeah.
know how to leverage, that kind of information, which is information that I have. So that's what's sort of happening with California. Californians have a lot of pride. We have a lot of ethnicities as well too, so they sort of stick with their own. Sort of in that aspect, it's a different state compared to the rest of the U.S.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think perfectly said. Brother, I could talk to you for another 3 hours. I want to be respectful of your time. Talk a little bit about like, first off, I want to say this before I ask this last question. Um, if you're an agent in California and you're looking for a home, this is the guy. Andrew is the guy. Andrew's, done such a great job with his team in a fairly short amount of time at that, right? I mean, it's very impressive what they've been able to do and what he's been able to grow, and just to see the success of, his agents and kind of see their growth. And that's all Andrew. Um, if someone is watching this or they listen to the end of this on the audio version and they want to get in touch with you, they really they want to reach out to you. They're looking for mentorship, they're looking for guidance, and they want to work with Andrew. How can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Yeah. Well, you can just call me. Call my office line 323-844-8255. 8471, and then just hey, I saw you on Christian's podcast. Hey, I've been following what you've been doing on your own channel, California Insurance Agents Group channel. And I just want to work with you or whatever the case is. Yeah, call me. And then from there, I'll give you my personal cell and we'll have that relationship like that, right? We
Yeah.
can do it like that. I mean, from there, Christian, your contracting team is amazing. So
Hmm.
it's a pretty seamless process there. But yeah, if you ever do, if you don't have a home, if you're in a situation as to some of the, situations that I've illustrated, if you're just like, I just have an FMO that has a different job right now too, has his part-time job, or an upline that has a part-time job, or just like isn't competent or doesn't have enough just know-how, just experience, then yeah, definitely reach out. Let's see if we're a good fit.
Absolutely. 100%. Guys, we'll also link some links in the description of the podcast and also on the YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube, to Andrew's Facebook group, California Insurance Agents, and also his YouTube channel, also called California Insurance Agents. Um, highly recommend you join his group. Highly recommend you follow him and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Puts out some killer, great information. Um, Andrew Lee, thank you for doing this. Thanks for all your
Yeah.
time and insight, brother.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to see how the podcast situation comes about, and I can't wait to see you on the charts. I want to see you up there.
Hey, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Guys, no matter what platform you're listening, if it's a podcast platform, give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe. Um, we'll be back with more episodes of the Seven Figure Bus Podcast soon. Appreciate you watching all the way to the end, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.